Our first honored guest today, Dr. Andrew Weaver.
Not too much into predator
First
shooting.
off, that really resonated with me, what Sean just said about never protesting and wondering what he's doing here. That's why I'm here, is issues like this that were dear to me, I felt were not actually being dealt with. And so I ended up, rather than participating in a democracy from the outside, saying, you know what, you want to make a difference, and if people aren't listening, stand up and make a difference yourself. And lo and behold, here I am. So there is hope. I would challenge you in the next few years to actually think about getting politically engaged, because that is how things change. To start off, I'd like to thank you all for coming to the legislature today, because I know a lot of you have had to travel quite far and take time off from work to be here. But I'm glad that you did, because this issue is simply too important to let it quietly slip off the public radar. And I commend you for being here today, for speaking up on behalf of hunters across BC, and for realizing that the February adjustment to the allocation policy was simply not good enough. Little more than a patronizing response to your heartfelt feedback and concern for the future of hunting in BC. The erosion of a hunter's access to BC game is yet another example of government putting the needs of special interests ahead of those of regular British Columbians. Hunting is a foundational part of life for many people in BC. And as you all know so well, it is a way to connect with nature, spend time with your loved ones, and provide a clean and healthy source of protein for your families. Having that connection to one's food, that knowing its true value and appreciating where it came from, means that you have a profound understanding of the importance of conservation. It's been a great honor for me to work closely with the BC Wildlife Federation, the province's largest conservation organization, as I attempted over the last few months to educate myself on allocation issues. Hunters in BC have a rich history of conservation in our province, working tirelessly to ensure animal populations are healthy, abundant, and that their natural habitats are protected. Despite running on the Families First platform, the BC Liberal government has continued to put the vested interests of a select, profitable few ahead of its own residents. In the hunting sector especially, we've seen a steady erosion of your rights as they continue to be reallocated to the guide outfitting industry. The December hunting permit amendment may have been the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, but the government has been making the shift towards prioritizing the needs of industry over its own residents for the last decade. The government's actions have not been guided by the values of British Columbians, nor have they been guided by independent expert advice, scientific advice. The numbers put forward in December weren't even close to the allocation splits recommended by the ministry, by the minister's own staff. What troubles me most is that according to the lobbyist registrar, the Guide Outfitters Association has had over 2,000 person meetings with government officials since 2011.
Oh, shit.
Quite a number of these meetings have included Premier Clark. So it's absolutely clear and evident to me that this government has the ear of the concerns of the guide outfitters. But today and together we're here to say to government that that is not enough. Together we are demanding that government listen to British Columbians, the people that they are supposed to represent. Allocation of BC's wildlife to guide outfitters is an issue that affects all of us, not just the people here today. For your information, I look forward to not only tabling the BCWF petition opposing the permanent allocation amendment shortly, but also to introducing and tabling a bill later today that, if enacted, would make trophy hunting for non-residents more difficult by requiring them to remove the meat from their kills and transport it back to their home addresses. For local BC hunters, for local sustenance hunters, this bill will not have an effect because the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of BC hunters are already doing this. This bill simply echoes that which they are doing, harvesting wild game to bring the meat home to feed themselves and their families. But for non-resident trophy hunters coming to BC, those who give hunters in general a bad name and shouldn't be giving them a bad name, and when they come in search of antlers or a hide or that head, this poses a larger logistical challenge because they will be required, as we all do naturally in BC, to bring the edible portions of meat back to their domicile, whether that be in Texas or in Germany. It is not a perfect solution. I recognize that this is not a perfect solution to our problems, but it will make the government engage in a conversation about where their interests lie and emphasize the importance of putting BC resident hunters first, respecting the practices of our province, respecting the long-standing tradition of conservation in BC, and respecting the practices that are embodied by resident hunters and the BC Wildlife Federation. In conclusion, I want to thank you again for coming here today. This issue is very dear to my heart. It's an issue that was brought to my attention by constituents who are resident BC hunters, who were profoundly concerned that what this is doing to our democratic right as citizens of British Columbia, taking our right to our management of our wildlife and our conservation principles and putting them in the hand of now what can be foreign vested interest. Thank you.